I've been playing soccer ever since I could walk, and it is by far my favorite sport. As a striker, nothing can match the feeling of timing a run to receive a pass, hearing the ball find the back of the net, and celebrating a goal with my teammates. What I love most about soccer is the trust and faith you must have in your teammates. Wins and losses happen as a team, not individually. Anyone that knows me well will tell you that I'm a Liverpool fan. All of my cousins in England are Liverpool fans as well, and ever since receiving my first jersey at the age of 4, I have always supported them. Soccer is played in almost every country, and it requires very little equipment. I find it fascinating that no matter where you're from or what language you speak, you can start a game of soccer anywhere in the world without saying a word. Every 4 years, the World Cup tournament unites players and fans from all over the world. The 2018 World Cup in Russia drew an audience of 3 billion people. I particularly enjoy hearing the life stories of many players through match commentary and articles written by soccer journalists. I've discovered that some of my favorite players, including Luis Suarez, Neymar Jr., and Cristiano Ronaldo, all grew up in very poor areas. Now, while these players were able to rise above their childhood circumstances and build a career from their passion, many children are not that fortunate. In fact, many children living in slum areas, despite having a passion for soccer, do not even own a single pair of shoes. Good morning, Appleby. My name is Ethan Parikh, and I am delighted to be your service prefect this year. Today, I hope to inspire you to shift your perspective on the little things we take for granted in our lives and understand that these little things really are the big things. Let me take you back to 2018. I was watching a World Cup qualifying game and remember seeing a video of young Kenyan children playing with a ball, which consisted of some garbage tied together with some string. Imagine that for a minute. A ball made of garbage tied together with some string. What stood out to me the most, however, was that all of the children were playing barefoot. I didn't think this was fair. Realizing that many of them lacked basic footwear made me upset. How could I play with proper gear while others didn't even have the basics? I had seen poverty before, but my 15-year-old self looked at this differently, and I wanted to take action. I wondered if the universal language of soccer could help me connect with underprivileged children and help make a positive difference in their lives. With this goal in mind, I planned a trip to Nairobi, Kenya with my family. Over the next few months, I worked tirelessly, rallying the support of several local soccer clubs and businesses. My hope was to collect some donations to take with me to help some of the less fortunate children in the orphanages and schools that we were going to visit. I was humbled by the donations I received. In fact, I was able to gather over 260 pounds of soccer gear, school supplies, and toiletries. I ended up filling 7 large suitcases, which left my family of 5 only 1 suitcase for our personal belongings. Going into the slums was very intimidating at first. Everywhere I looked, poverty looked back. All of a sudden, I felt like I'd brought nothing at all. Like the 7 suitcases of donations were simply a drop in the bucket. When we arrived at the orphanage, one of the first children I met was a 9-year-old boy named Junior. His bright eyes and contagiously wide grin made everyone around him smile. If you were there, you would have smiled too. He had been living in an orphanage in the Soweto slums of Nairobi since he was a toddler. He eagerly volunteered to show me around and introduce me to his friends. That was even before he knew why I was there. At the orphanage, Junior explained to me that his responsibilities included tending to the vegetable garden, collecting eggs from the chicken coop, and fetching water from the nearby well. However hard his chores were, I could tell that Junior stayed positive with his quick wit and good sense of humor. His friends began to gather around and they introduced themselves. As we eventually brought out the donations, they were curious, waiting patiently to see whatever we had to offer them. As I distributed shirts, shorts, socks, and shoes, I noticed that not only did the child receiving the items smile thankfully, but the children around beamed too. The children were equally happy for each other's gains as they were for their own. There was no crowding, no grabbing, no bickering. Instead, there was sheer contentment and gratitude. Junior himself had not even asked for anything. He was so happy being my helper, distributing the items and seeing his friends happy. As we talked, I discovered that, like me, he's passionate about soccer. On that day in August, I never would have thought that our common love of soccer and a simple pair of shoes would change his world and mine forever. That day through Junior, I experienced the African concept of Ubuntu, which translates to I am because we are. I am because we are. Nelson Mandela best explains Ubuntu as a profound sense that we are human only through the humanity of others. Far too often, people think of themselves as individuals separated from one another. The truth is that we are all connected, and what we do, you and I, affects everyone around you. In speaking with Junior's teachers, I learned that without a proper pair of shoes, young children, no matter where they live, are susceptible to jiggers, a foot infection caused by a parasitic sand flea. This flea burrows into its host and lays eggs, which can cause pain, infection, debilitation, and in extreme cases, amputation. What surprised me even more was learning that jiggers is completely preventable with a simple pair of shoes. Owning shoes helps children stay healthy, enabling them to do chores within their community and walk to school. From that day, I learned that shoes can be a vehicle for powerful social change. A simple pair of shoes can change the outcome of a child's life forever. One of my favorite memories from that day was eating lunch with the kids. Even though we had a simple meal of freshly made flatbread and some vegetables from the garden, I could tell that they offered me the very best they had. Before leaving the orphanage, I gifted Junior my prized Liverpool Football Club jersey that I wore when I was his age. While distributing the clothing and supplies to the other children, I had kept this jersey aside, especially for him. It is fitting that Liverpool's motto is, "You'll never walk alone." Though I might never see Junior again, the memory of that day, his selflessness and compassion, is something I will always remember. This year, a virus has greatly disrupted our lives. 2020 has presented us with new challenges and new normals. This disruption has caused us to pause and reflect. Regardless about what you hear about 2020 from social media, whether it's that people can't wait for it to be over or that it's the worst year yet, what you take away from 2020 will be entirely dependent on your perspective. Through the pandemic and social isolation, we have been given the chance to reflect on what is truly important in our lives: who we are, who we want to become, what we need, and what we can do without. The spirit of Ubuntu in our community and in our world is now more important than ever. Ubuntu is about togetherness and how, as global citizens, we must care about our thoughts and actions as they have a real impact on others and on society. Understanding this encourages us to think differently about what we say, what we do, and even what we own. Ubuntu also represents the concept of looking after each other. During remote learning or when social distancing, we can feel quite isolated. Ubuntu reminds us that no one is alone and that we are stronger and better together. Every single thing you do, good or bad, has an impact on your family, your friends, and your community. We need to think twice about the choices we make and consider the impacts they have on others. Ubuntu is about justice, and particularly justice for all people. Here at Appleby, we strive to be open-minded and inclusive, respecting everyone, regardless of their age, gender, race, sexual orientation, or social status, to name a few. What little actions can we take as a community so that every member feels the spirit of Ubuntu? The feeling of being valued and respected. For me, many small things come to mind. When someone takes the time to say hello or asks me how I'm doing. When I get genuine feedback to help me improve in some area in my life. When I am taught a new skill or concept with patience and encouragement. When I play soccer or basketball with my friends. These all make me feel valued and they make me feel connected. As global citizens, we are a team. How can you be a team player and play your position for the betterment of society? We must strive to purposefully create and foster a safe, supportive, and synergistic environment in which everyone belongs and can achieve their full potential, where everyone can feel the spirit of Ubuntu. So, the next time you look at your shoes, I hope you are inspired to think differently. I hope that you realize that the small things you do, the everyday opportunities you have, really are the big things. That you have the ability to positively impact those around you, one person at a time, and that we collectively have a responsibility to serve others. Now will you please rise and virtually join me in singing hymn 423, How Great Thou Art.